Yes, a last-minute change to the top of tonight's show, to that huge breaking news. The police investigation into Angela Rayner is examining multiple allegations and is not merely limited to potential electoral law offences. That's according to reports that have just come out this evening. A source has told The Times that at least a dozen officers at Greater Manchester Police are investigating the Labour deputy leader over where she lived in the 2010s and the sale of her former council house in Stockport. Police are reportedly examining tax matters and other issues on top of the question of whether Rayner gave false information for the electoral register when she lived between two former council houses in Stockport in the 2010s. Look, to hopefully shed a little bit more light on this, I'm joined now by the political correspondent at The Spectator. It's James Heal. James, look, thank you very, very much. So what are these latest developments then? It's just landed moments ago.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a story in The Times, and it reveals that the investigation by Greater Manchester Police into Angela Rayner isn't going to be confined to just issues around the Representation of the People Act. This is the electoral law element. And of course, that's significant because those offences are meant to be registered and investigated within 12 months. So of course, now we're talking about different things. We don't know, for instance, the kind of exact detail of what they're looking into. But one potential issue, if it's involving two different houses, is capital gains tax, of course. And there is no kind of statutory limit on that, which means that potentially you could see an investigation and potential criminal offences, etc., being committed, and it wouldn't have a time limit on it. And so that's what we're really interested in. I've just been talking to some Conservative MPs, and they say, look, it's tax that really ought to be the thing that, if it's going to do for her, that's the thing that's going to do for her, because, there is no limitation on that. And of course, that's the thing that did, for instance, for Nadeem Zahawi, and some of them are pushing now for an HMRC investigation as well. So I think this is quite a significant development tonight, and The Times also reveals that at least a dozen officers are involved in this. So it's quite a big investigation from the sounds of it, Patrick.
Yeah, a very big investigation. And look, one would imagine Angela Rayner denies any wrongdoing. The latest that we've heard from her is that she welcomes a police investigation. It's an opportunity for her to clear her name. So obviously we have to leave that ball in her court when it comes to that. However, has she set herself up for a potential fail here? Because I think she said, hasn't she, well, look, she will resign if indeed the police find any wrongdoing. Well, it now looks as though the scope of that investigation is going to be looking at more allegations than we thought. So the chances are higher, presumably.
I think she had to do it, Patrick, if I'm honest with you. Like, given what she said previously about Boris Johnson and offences, etc., it was the only way out for her. And I actually think, interestingly, by raising the stakes and saying, I'm going to resign if I am found guilty, that almost puts more pressure on Greater Manchester Police, because they're now under pressure to basically be really confident in their evidence and their case against her, because they know they're going to cause the resignation of the person who basically wants to be the next Deputy Prime Minister of this country. So they're going to make sure they're 100% watertight, absolutely sure in their evidence. And I think Rayner's response, backed into a corner over the past 8 weeks, was the only thing she could do.
I've just actually, literally this second, been provided with a statement from Angela Rayner. So this has apparently just come through to us. She says, I've repeatedly said that I would welcome the chance to sit down with the appropriate authorities, including the police and HMRC, to set out the facts and draw a line under this matter. I'm completely confident I've followed the rules at all times. I've always said that integrity and accountability are important in politics. That's why it's important that this is urgently looked at independently and without political interference. Look, I may well stand corrected on this, James, but I do believe that might be a regurgitation of what was said actually on Friday from her. So it doesn't look like we've had too much movement from the Rayner camp, despite, and I will just reiterate to our viewers and listeners now, if you are just joining us, this report that has just landed in The Times, Angela Rayner, police investigate multiple allegations. The force is examining tax matters and other issues involving the Labour deputy leader as questions continue over the council house sale. This involves, as we understand it, at least a dozen officers now at Greater Manchester Police. And it's about where she lived in the 2010s. But it understands, and this is the crucial bit, James, that police are examining tax matters and other issues on top of the question of whether Rayner gave false information for the electoral register when she lived between two former council houses in Stockport in the 2010s. So things have just got more serious for the Labour deputy leader, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely. This is a more wide-ranging investigation than some previously led us to believe. And as you say there, Patrick, that statement basically is the same thing she said on Friday. I'm not surprised. Of course, what else could she say? Of course, she's going to welcome a police investigation and try and ward against any political interference. But the fact remains this is more significant than I think some perhaps were saying on Friday. So I will wait to see what that investigation does. But GMP does seem to be taking it seriously, as they really should, given the magnitude of the case involved here.